In this video, we're going to talk about the Compton effect. Now, before we work on this problem, let's discuss what it is. So let's say we have an electron and a photon is incident upon that electron. So it strikes the electron, and when that happens, a few things can occur. Number one, the electron could absorb all of the energy and get knocked off out of the atom. This is known as the photoelectric effect, and the photon completely disappears. Number two, the electron can absorb the photon, and rather than being knocked out of the atom, it can move to a higher energy level. Another thing that can happen is that the photon can still exist after the collision between itself and the electron. Sometimes the photon can be scattered off the electron. And when that happens, we have the situation known as the Compton effect. The angle from which it is scattered from is the phi angle, and the electron, it can also leave as well at an angle theta relative to the positive x-axis. Now, the original photon that struck the electron, it has a wavelength lambda. Our goal in this problem is to calculate that wavelength. And the formula that we need to calculate it is this. The scattered photon has a wavelength that's equal to its original wavelength plus Planck's constant divided by the rest mass of the particle that was struck by the photon. In this case, that will be the electron, times the speed of light multiplied by 1 minus cosine phi. So notice that these values are fixed. They're all constant. The only thing that's changing here is the angle. So the new wavelength of the photon depends upon the angle from which it scatters off the electron. Now, cosine can vary between -1 and 1. So what does that mean for this expression, 1 minus cosine phi? Well, if we plug in -1 into this, 1 minus -1 is 2. And if we plug in 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So this expression, 1 minus cosine phi, will vary between 0 and 2. It can't be 3, it can't be -4. It's always going to vary between 0 and 2. Now, this expression here, Planck's constant over m times c, that is known as the Compton wavelength. Now, if we plug in the rest mass of an electron, this will be the Compton wavelength of an electron. A photon can also strike a proton. If we wanted to find the Compton wavelength of a proton, we would simply plug in the rest mass of a proton. But now let's go ahead and calculate the Compton wavelength of an electron. So using this formula, it's going to be h over me, the rest mass of an electron, times c. So that's 6.626 times 10 to the negative 34 joules times seconds. And then the rest mass of an electron is 9.11 times 10 to the negative 31 kilograms. And then we'll multiply that by the speed of light. So let's go ahead and plug this in. So this is equal to 2.424 times 10 to the negative 12 meters. If we divide that by 10 to the negative 9, we'll get that in nanometers. So that will be 2.424 times 10 to the minus 3 nanometers. So the Compton wavelength of an electron is 0.0024. You can put another 24 if you want, nanometers. Now, that value is multiplied by 1 minus cosine phi. And 1 minus cosine phi varies between 0 and 2. So what that means is that the change in wavelength, that is the difference between the wavelength of the scattered photon and the original photon, it's always going to be between 0 and 2 times the Compton wavelength, whether that be the Compton wavelength of an electron or a proton. The change in wavelength is always between 0 and 2 times the Compton wavelength. Thus, the exact amount upon which the wavelength of the photon changes upon collision depends on two things: the angle from which it is scattered and also the mass of the particle on which it strikes. So now let's go ahead and finish this problem. But first, let's clear the board. Now let's start with part A. So let's say if the photons are scattered at an angle of 0 degrees, what's going to be the new wavelength? The original wavelength is 0.05 nanometers. The photon is striking an electron, and we know the Compton wavelength for an electron. We said it's 0.0024 nanometers. So we don't need to plug in those values. We could just put 0.0024 nanometers. And this is the part that's going to change. So it's 1 minus cosine of 0 degrees. Now cosine of 0 is 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have 0.05 plus 0, which is 0.05. So if the angle is 0, the wavelength of the photon doesn't change. Now let's think about what that means. This means that the photons went straight through the sheet of carbon without interacting with the electrons. So they went straight through because the angle is 0. In which case, there's no change in wavelength. Now what about if the angle is at 45 degrees? In this case, the wavelength will change. So this is going to be cosine 45 degrees, and we can plug that in. 0.05 plus 0.0024 times 1 minus cosine 45. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. So this will give us a new wavelength of 0.0507. If you were to use 0.002424, the new wavelength would be 0.05071. So it wouldn't make that much of a difference, but for those of you who want a more accurate answer, that's what would happen. Notice that regardless of the angle, except 0 degrees, the wavelength of the scattered photon is always greater than the original wavelength. The wavelength always goes up, it doesn't go down. What that means is that after the photon strikes a particle, it's always going to lose some energy unless it passes straight through without interacting with the particle. So anytime it collides with something and scatters at some angle, the photon is going to lose energy. When the wavelength goes up, the frequency goes down, and the energy of a photon is directly proportional to its frequency. So anytime a photon is scattered off a particle at some non-zero angle, the wavelength will increase and the photon will lose some of its energy in the process. So now let's see what's going to happen if the angle is 90. So if the angle is 90 degrees, it's going to scatter from the electron in this direction. Now cosine 90 is 0. So at 90 degrees, the wavelength of the original photon is going to increase by 1 Compton wavelength. Since the particle that the photon is striking is the electron, it's going to increase by 1 Compton wavelength of an electron. So it's 0.05 plus 0.0024. Our new answer is going to be 0.0524 nanometers. So remember, anytime the photon is scattered off a particle at a 90-degree angle, the wavelength is going to increase by 1 Compton wavelength. And the Compton wavelength varies based on the mass of the particle upon which the photon is incident on. So now let's see what's going to happen if we change the angle to 180 degrees. So let's use a different color. What that means is that what we're going to have is a direct head-on collision. The photon is going to be scattered backwards away from the electron at an angle of 180. So rather than moving towards the positive x-axis, it's now deflected back towards the negative x-axis. Now what is cosine 180? Cosine 180 is equal to 0. Actually, no, it's not. I take that back. Cosine 0 is 1. Cosine 90 is 0. Cosine 180 is negative 1. So it's 1 minus negative 1. 1 minus negative 1 is the same as 1 plus 1. So the wavelength is going to increase by 2 Compton wavelengths. So when the photon bounces back off an electron or some other particle, the wavelength is going to go up by 2 Compton wavelengths, which is the maximum upon which it will increase by. So it's 0.05 plus 0.0024 times 2. And that's going to be 0.0548 nanometers. So that's the new wavelength of the photon that bounces off or deflects backward from this electron. Now let's work on one more problem in this video. Calculate the Compton wavelength of a proton. So we calculate it for an electron, but let's find it for a proton. The Compton wavelength of a proton is going to be Planck's constant times the rest mass of a proton times the speed of light. So Planck's constant is 6.626 times 10 to the negative 34 joules times seconds. And the rest mass of a proton is approximately 1.67 times 10 to the negative 27 kilograms. And then times the speed of light, which is 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. So let's plug this in. So the Compton wavelength is going to be 1.32 times 10 to the negative 15 meters. Now, if we want to convert that to nanometers, we can divide that by 10 to the negative 9. And so that's 1.32 times 10 to the minus 6 nanometers, which is very, very small. Now remember the basic idea behind the Compton wavelength. The Compton wavelength of a proton is equivalent to the wavelength of a photon that has an energy equal to the rest energy of that electron. And a very similar definition applies to a proton. The Compton wavelength of a proton is equal to the wavelength of a photon that has an energy equal to the rest energy of the proton. Now this value is pretty small, which indicates that the rest energy is very high. As the wavelength of a photon decreases, the frequency increases and the energy is higher. So photons with a very low wavelength are photons with high energy. And so, since this is the Compton wavelength of a proton, it tells us that the rest energy of a proton is significantly high. So let's put this in perspective. The Compton wavelength of a proton is significantly smaller than the Compton wavelength of an electron. What this means is that the rest energy of a proton is significantly larger than the rest energy of an electron. And that makes sense because protons are much more massive than electrons.